back in. Today I will be tackling again Python Crash Course by Matthes. Currently on chapter 2. As you can see, learning about variables, f strings, recapturing those f strings into a variable itself, and then printing the variable. To be specific here, I'm on page 23 of chapter 2. Alright, so if we come here, let's go ahead and my notes so far. A couple of data type, learning have a string data type we've learned so far. Sure we'll learn things like integers coming forward. Got a couple methods associated with strings. Yesterday or last session I learned that methods were an action that Python can perform on a piece of data. Methods are followed by a set of parentheses. Just manipulating data somehow, in some way. These are some methods associated with string-specific methods. Examples, string dot with the method. And then I have title, which capitalizes the first letter of every word, making it title case. String dot upper capitalizes all letters in the string. String dot lower, obviously lowercase all letters in the string. And then string dot lower is best use for storing user data to ensure all data is uniform and readable by Python. That was a special note that the book made that I thought was important when dealing with user input. Users can be quite unpredictable on how they'll type their case or sensitivity of their data, so it's best to just convert it and keep it all uniform from the jump. Alright, where did I leave off here? Alright, let me just start at the top of the page here. To add a tab to your text, on page 22. To add a tab to your text, use the character \T. Okay, I'm actually going to go back here to the previous paragraph heading. Adding whitespace to strings with tabs or new lines. This is important here. In programming, whitespace refers to any non-printing characters such as spaces, tabs, and end-of-line symbols. You can use whitespace to organize your output so it's easier for users to read. Okay. You can use whitespace to organize your output so it's easier for users to read. Whitespace. I'm going to make a note here of whitespace. So whitespace was determined as, let's make a definitions here. Whitespace is defined as any non-printing characters such as spaces, tabs, and end of line symbols. End of line symbols. You can use whitespace to organize your output so it's easier for users to read. So like you can manipulate whitespace. Yeah. So you can use special characters. use quote backslash T. This will add a tab to your text. Okay. Quote backslash N adds a new line. You can also combine tabs and new lines in a single string. The string backslash N backslash T tells Python to move to a new line and start the next line with a tab. So backslash N, new line, backslash T, tab. Okay. Tells Python, new line, start a new tab. The following example shows how you can use a one-line string to generate 4 lines of output. The following example shows how you can use a one-line string. And then it just shows an example here of just new line with a tab, new line tab, new line tab. So let's put like, let's go here. Example would be like print quote languages from the book here. I'll literally take it. He wants new line, so backslash N and then backslash T for tab. Python would be our header, backslash N backslash T. C backslash N backslash T. Java. I forgot one here. Python. And then close this off. So he has backslash N backslash T. Python backslash N. Already have Python once. Oh, never mind. I guess I already put it. Python. Python, C, JavaScript. New lines and tabs will be very useful in the next two chapters, when you start to produce many lines of output from just a few lines of code. Okay. Stripping whitespace. Extra whitespace can be confusing in your programs. To programmers, Python, quote, Python, and quote, space, and quotes, Python space, quote, look pretty much the same, but to a program, they are two different strings. Python detects the extra space in, quote, Python space, and close quote, and considers it significant unless you tell it otherwise. It is important to think about whitespace because often you'll want to compare two strings to determine whether they are the same. For example, one important instance might involve checking people's usernames when they log in to a website. Extra whitespace can be confusing in much simpler situations as well. Extra whitespace can be confusing in much simpler situations as well. Fortunately, Python makes it easy to eliminate extra whitespace from data that people enter. Okay, Python makes it easy, so we're going to learn how to eliminate whitespace here. Python can look for extra whitespace on the right and left sides of a string to ensure that no whitespace exists at the right side of a string To ensure that no white space exists at the right side of a string, use the rstrip method. Okay. So this is another method. So here, rstrip removes the white space to the right of the string. And then, so here's an example here, Python, rstrip. Okay. The value associated with favorite language, in the example, okay, contains extra white space at the end of the string. When you ask Python for this value in a terminal session, you can see the space at the end of the value. When the rstrip method acts on the variable favorite language, this extra white space is removed. However, it is only removed temporarily. If you ask for the value of favorite language again, the extra white space, however, if you ask for the value of the white space again, the string looks the same as when it was entered, including the extra white space. Okay, so if you don't call rstrip on it, it will reappear as what it was defined in the variable originally, because the variable is still defined there. Now, if you strip it inside the variable, then that's a different situation, right? All right. Let me see actually if I can get the. All right, let's keep moving here. To remove the white space from the string permanently, you have to associate the stripped value with the variable name, exactly like what I just said. So he has the variable favorite language equals Python space, favorite language equals favorite language dot rstrip, so he just reassigns the variable to itself and prints it again. To remove the white space from the string, you strip the white space from the right side of the string, and then associate this new value with the original variable. Changing a variable's value is done often in programming. This is how a variable value can be updated as a program is executed or in response to user input. You can also strip white space from the left side of a string using the lstrip method. Alright, new method. Alright. Favorite language equals space Python space. For every favorite language equals rstrip Python. Favorite language equals .lstrip Python. Favorite language .strip Python. Okay. So you can just use .strip to remove everything. So I'm gonna put that here. In this example, we start with the value that has white space at the beginning and the end. We then remove the extra space from the right side. Yep, in 2. From the left side in 3, and from both sides in line 4. Experimenting with these stripping functions can help you become familiar with manipulating strings. In the real world, these stripping functions are used most often to clean up user input before it's stored in a program. So there's that note again. So let's write that down here. I'm going to copy this note. Right there on the strip. Removing prefixes, page 23. When working with strings, another common task is to remove a prefix. Consider a URL where the common prefix is HTTPS semicolon, or is it colon? Colon, not semi. Colon // We want to remove this prefix so we can focus on just the part of the URL that the users need to enter into an address bar. Here's how to do that. No starch underscore URL equals https colon / nostarch.com. Remove prefix. Oh, here's another method. Okay, remove prefix. String dot remove prefix. Removes the probably removes the first instance. Okay. Enter the name of the variable followed by a dot and the method remove prefix. Inside the parentheses, enter the prefix you want to remove from the original string. Like the methods from removing whitespace, remove prefix leaves the original string unchanged. If you want to keep the new value with the remove prefix, either reassign it to the original variable or assign it to a new variable. When you see a URL in an address bar and want the HTTPS part, and the HTTPS isn't shown, the browser is probably using a method like remove prefix behind the scenes. One kind of error that you might want, avoiding syntax errors with strings. One kind of error that you might see with some regularity is a syntax error. So let's write down a new page here so we can scroll. Here we go. So let's make we want to make a new thing called errors. Syntax error. Is a syntax error occurs when Python doesn't recognize a section of your program as valid Python code. Python does not recognize a section of your code as readable Python code. It's valid Python code. I like that better. This is syntax or like that. Ignore. Let's get rid of the C. I want to keep the C. Ignore. Ignore. Okay. That is cute. Study buddy. Another one down here. 2 study buddies. Alright, what's my timer at here? 22 minutes. Okay. Got 3 more minutes studying. 5-minute break. Alright. One kind of error you might see with some regularity is a syntax error. A syntax error occurs when Python doesn't recognize a section of your program as valid Python code. For example, if you use an apostrophe within single quotes, you'll produce a Python error. This happens because Python interprets everything between the first single quote and the apostrophe as a string. It then tries to interpret the rest of the text as Python code, which causes the error. Here's how to use single and double quotes correctly. Save this program as apostrophe.py and then run it. Okay. So let's jump back over to our VS Code here. We want to do file, new file. Or let's just do new file right here. Inside chapter 2. We want to name this apostrophe. Okay, we want to make this message. We want to assign a variable to the variable name message. Inside this variable is going to be a string called one of Python regular one of Python strings. Is its diversity, diverse community. Getting ahead of myself. I need a period after the, okay. One of Python's strengths is its diverse community. No apostrophe here. And then we want to just go ahead and just print that message variable. Let's go ahead and run this. Boom. The apostrophe appears inside a set of double quotes, so the Python interpreter has no trouble reading the string correctly. One of Python's strengths is its diverse community. It's kind of a tongue twister. However, if you use single quotes, Python can't identify where the string should end. Message, single quote, one of Python's strings. Yeah, because you have a single quote as the apostrophe. So it thinks the string is one of Python, and then it's trying to interpret S forward, and then it thinks you're opening another string there. Syntax error. If you see the output, if you try to print in the output, you can see that the error occurs right after the final single quote. This syntax error indicates that the interpreter doesn't recognize something in the code as valid Python code, and it thinks the problem might be a string that's not quoted correctly. Yes, okay. The errors can come from a variety of sources, and I'll point out some common ones as they arise. You might see syntax errors often as you learn to write proper Python code. Syntax errors are also the least specific kind of error, so they can be difficult and frustrating to identify and correct. Let me read that again. Syntax errors are also the least specific kind of error. Okay, so they can be quite broad. If you get stuck on a particular stubborn error, see the suggestions in Appendix C. Okay. Note: your editor's syntax highlighting feature should help you spot some syntax errors quickly as you write your programs. If you see Python's code highlighted as if it's English or English highlighted as if it's Python code, you probably have mismatched quotation marks somewhere in your file. Alright. That's 25 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and do a pause here. I will set my timer for 5 minutes. Quick 5-minute break starting now. Ending on closing here on page 25, right before the try it yourself. Right. Just gonna take a break. 40 seconds left here. The break. Okay, let's get back going here. It's a quick 5 minutes. Quick 5. I don't feel like much. Okay. Let's go again for another 25 minutes. Starting now. Page 25, try it yourself. Save each of the following exercises as a separate file with a name like _cases.py. If you get stuck, take a break and see the suggestions in Appendix C. Okay, we're doing some stuff on our own here for the first time. Alright, new file every time, okay? So let's just go new file here. Personal message. Use a variable to represent a person's name and print a message to that person. Your message should be simple, such as hello, Eric. Okay. So I already have simple underscore personal message. So personal pi. Not person, personal underscore message.py. Alright. Use a variable to represent a person's name, so let's just do message. Stick with the theme here. We want the message to equal person's name and print a message to that person. Michael. And then we want to print an F string, so we'll put an F before the quote. We would like to print a message to the user, so we want to do hello, and then we'll do the variable inside the bracket. How are you doing? Simple enough. But we forgot that we need to have a string. Oop. Not that. There. Now we run. Hello, Michael. How are you doing? Okay. Alright, that was personal message. Alright. Let's do a new file here. Next problem, name cases. Name cases.py. Use a variable to represent a person's name. So let's do name equals Michael. We need to remember that we're doing strings. And print a message to that person. No. And then print that person's name in lowercase, uppercase, and title case. Okay, print print name dot title. What do I want to print? You can put the variable right in here. Yeah. Print lowercase, uppercase, so dot lower, and then uppercase, print name dot capitalize upper. What is name dot capitalize? Oh, just the first character. Okay. Upper. So if we print Michael. Now if I make my name full, cool. Let's go ahead and save that up. New file. We want to move on here. 2.5. Famous quote. .py. Okay. Find a quote from a famous person you admire. Print the quote and the name of its author. It's just something like the following in quotation marks. Okay. So let's do that. Let's do the quote equals, let's just do the one in the book. A person who never made a mistake never tried anything. A person who never made a mistake never tried anything. Alright, we want to print. So let's do an F string. We want to print. Let's do, actually we need to make another variable for our author of the quote. And this is going to be a string Albert Einstein. And then we will literally just say, we want to say boom, we want to do author. And then once said, quote, we want to do, literally put the quote here. But remember, we have to use single quotes. I by nature do double quotes on the outside, so I'm gonna keep my saying here, even though he has the inverse of me, it doesn't really matter, I don't think. So I always use double quotes on the outside, never use single quotes to quote anything. So I will capture actual quotations in strings and F strings as single quotes, and keep double as my string identifiers. Your output should look something like the following. A person once said, quote, and then anything new. Tried anything new, period. So now if we print this, Albert Einstein once said, comma, space, a person never made a mistake, never tried anything. Alright, cool. Let's save that up. Nice. 2.6 famous quote 2. Okay, let's do famous quote underscore 2 .py. Repeat exercise 2-5, but this time represent the famous person's name using a variable called famous person. Then compose your message and represent it with a new variable called message. Okay, so I kind of jumped the gun. It wants me to do the same thing I did before, so let me just go ahead and copy this code over. So we have our quote, we have our author, and it wants me to represent the famous person's name using a variable called famous underscore person. Okay. And then compose your message and represent it as a new variable called message. So it wants me to make a new variable called message as the message itself. And then it wants me to print the variable holding the message, which is just message. So now if I run this, oh, it didn't change this variable over. Famous underscore person once said, Albert Einstein once said, a person who never seen or turn anything on, .1. Oh, looks like I put a 1 there. Okay. Boom. Nice. Alright, kind of jumping the gun here, but that means I'm improving. That means I'm improving. Alright, next up, 2.2-7. We're going to do a new file here. Stripping names. .py. Okay. Use a variable to represent a person's name and include some white space. So we'll just do name equals quote Michael again. We'll use some white space. Include some white space characters at the beginning and the end of the name. Okay. And then use at the beginning and at the end of the name. Make sure you use each character's combination, \t and \n, at least once. Print the name once so this white space around the name is displayed. Print the name once the white is displayed. Okay. Then print the name using each of the 3 stripping functions. Okay, so we will use a variable and include some white space characters at the beginning and the end of the name. Make sure to use each character combination \t and \n at least once. Okay. So let me redo this. Michael \n. No, I don't want to make that my name. Print the name once with the white space around his name is displayed. So we'll print the name. We will then print the name, but we will only strip. What are we going to strip? Strip that down from me. We're going to strip L, R, and then total. So L, Command C, and V, R, oh shit. And then just strip. So now, if we just run that, let's do okay. but it wants me to use Mation. Let's do just a fine. Let's just do \n \t. No, let's do \Michael \n \t. Let's just do that. No, that's / \. So Michael Deming. I think that's what he wants, but let's do like hello, Michael. And let's do delete. You want \n \t. Oh, Michael Deming. Yeah, like that. I'm gonna put a comma here. Nice. Okay, that's fine with me. I'm pretty sure that's what he would like. Okay, file extensions. We want a new file. File _ extensions.py. Python has a remove suffix method. Oh, new method. New method. Method that works exactly like assign the value. So I'm pretty sure it doesn't remove every instance of that in the string because it's a suffix. It could have it in the string somewhere. I think it's removes only from the end, if there, or the last. I don't know. Okay, so he wants me to assign the value quote Python _ notes.text to a variable called file name. Okay. Variable Python _ notes.txt quote. Okay, and then then use the remove suffix method to display the file name without the file extension. Okay, easy. Print the file name dot remove, not prefix, we want suffix, And then we want to do quote dot txt quote, and then we'll print that. When we clear this, and then run Python notes. Nice. Why do I have this bar? Oh, it's not in, these aren't inside the chapter, okay. Okay. Nice, so that was page 25, the try it yourself section. Moving on. Making moves here. Numbers. All right. We're learning about a new data type. Integers, I believe. We have a new data type. Integers. Numbers are used quite often in programming to keep score in games, represent data in visualizations, store information in web applications, and so on. Python treats numbers in several different ways depending on how they're being used. Let's first look at how Python manages integers because they're the simplest to work with. You can add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers in Python. In a terminal session, Python simply returns the results of the operation. Python uses two multiplication symbols to represent exponents. I did not know that. Okay. So let's go integers. Numbers used in math are just numbers, I guess. I'm not sure how to define integer in terms of Python at the moment, but I would like to state that you have quote plus for addition, quote minus for subtraction, quote multiplication for quote that for, then you have quote In terms of operation. Okay. Python supports the order of operations too, so you can use multiple operations in one expression. It's used to modify the order of operations by identifying the expression. Make an example. Okay, so you can use parentheses just like in math. Spacing in these examples. There goes the 25-minute timer. So let's just get through this integers section here. Data types. Okay. Python supports the order of operations too, so you can use multiple operations in one expression. You can also use parentheses to modify the order of operations so Python can evaluate your expression in the order you specify. For example, 2 plus 3 times 4 equals 14, but if you section off the 2 plus 3 equal first to be 5 times 4 would equal actually 20. The spacing in these examples has no effect on how Python evaluates the expressions. It simply helps you more quickly spot the operations that have priority when you're reading through your code. Okay, so the spacing doesn't really matter. So that was integers. So we're going to learn about floats. So I think these are all going to be encompassed under the number data type. No, I think they're their own data types themselves. Like so. Okay, so the next data type is floats, but we'll stop here for a 5-minute break. here for the 25 minutes. I'm going to probably be my last one. Gotta get some dinner after this. Made some good work though, for sure. For sure. Floats. Python calls any number with a decimal point a float. This term is used in most programming languages and it refers to the fact that a decimal point can appear at any position in a number. Every programming language must be carefully designed to properly manage decimal point numbers so numbers behave appropriately no matter where the decimal point appears. For the most part, you can use floats without worrying about how they behave. Simply enter the numbers you want to use, and Python will most likely do what you expect. So just simply adding and multiplying float values. So floats. So integers are whole number values. Whereas floats are a decimal point. Numbers that are numbers that contain float. Okay. However, be aware that you can sometimes get an arbitrary numbered decimal places with your answer. This happens in all languages and is of little concern. Python tries to find a way to represent the result as precisely as possible, which is sometimes difficult given how computers have to represent numbers internally. Just ignore the extra decimal place for now. You'll learn ways to deal with the extra places when you'll need to in the projects in part 2. Okay. Integers and floats. When you divide any two numbers, even if they are integers, that results in a whole number, you'll always get a float. If you mix any integer and a float in any other operation, you'll get a float as well. If you mix an integer and a float in any other operation, you'll get a float as well. So float dominates in functions. If used in a if using expression, result will always be used. Okay. So if you mix and match floats and numbers or integers, you always get a float. Python defaults to float in any operation that uses a float, even if the output is a whole number. If using expression with an integer. So we'll do an example here. It's going to be, what, 2 times 4.0 equals 8.0. Okay. 2 times 3.0 is 6. Yeah. Okay. Underscores in numbers. When you're writing long numbers, you can group digits together. Group digits using underscores. All right. Sorry, got a call. When you're writing long numbers, you can group digits using underscores to make large numbers more readable. I didn't know that either. Interesting. We'll just make like a new little section here for like facts or fun facts, I guess. I don't know. Use underscores to group digits when using large numbers. Example, something like 1,000,000. Okay. Next up. When you print a number that was defined using underscore in Python, prints only the digits. Python prints only the Python bypasses the underscores and print it. Alright, I'm storing these kinds of values. So only the digits. Python ignores the underscores when storing these kinds of values. Even if you don't group the digits in threes, the value will still be unaffected. To Python, 1000 is the same as 1 underscore 1000 is the same as 10 underscore 00. This feature works for both integers and floats. Interesting. You can assign values to more than one variable using a single line of code. This can help shorten your program and make them easier to read. You'll use this technique most often when initializing a set of numbers. For example, here's how you can initialize the variables x, y, and z to 0. X, comma, y, comma, z equals 0, comma, 0, comma, 0. So you just set it from left to right. Okay, you'll need to separate the variable names with commas and do the same with the values. And Python will assign each value to its respective variable. As long as the number of values match the number of variables, Python will match them up correctly. Constants. A constant is a variable whose value stays the same throughout the life of a program. Python doesn't have built-in constant types, but Python programmers use all capital letters to indicate a variable should be treated as a constant and never changed. So I'm gonna create a new definition here for variable, and then I'll get that definition later, obviously. Inside variables, we're gonna have multiple assignments. Which is example, last, comma, first equals Deming, comma, Smith, John. Okay. Constants, let's put that there. Python does not directly assign constant variables, but programmers universally indicate constant variable by using all capital example is going to be name equals John Smith. All capital letters to indicate the variable should treat it as a constant and never be changed. When you want to treat a variable as a constant in your code, write the name of the variable in all capital letters. Try it yourself. How much time do we have on our timer? Not that much. Alright. Try it yourself, page 29. Write addition, subtraction, multiplication, division operations so that each result in the number 8. Okay, 2.9. Number 8. Alright, let's go over here. Let's create a new file within chapter 2. Number underscore 8.py. Okay. Right, addition, subtraction, multiplication. Okay, so let's do 2 times, let's do addition, so let's do 2 plus 6 A equals B equals 10 minus 2, C equals multiplication of 2 times 4, D equals division equals 8, what, 64 divided by 8 equals 8, right? And then we want to be sure to enclose your operations in print calls to see the results. Oh, wants me to, instead of assigning variables, just assign them to print. Just the total here. Okay. Just like that. Boom. 888.0. You should see 4 lines that look like this. Yep. Your output should be 4 lines with the number 8 appearing once in each line. So division really gives you a float back too, no matter what. Because well, it's interesting. If I just did 8, but I probably would still get a float. Yeah, with 1. Interesting. So if you divide, you get back a float. Returns a float. Okay. That was 2-9, not 2-10, favorite number. Okay, let's go ahead and save this. Favorite. Alright. Favorite number. Use a variable to represent your favorite number. Okay. Number equals 10. Then using that variable to create a message that reveals your favorite number, print that message. Okay. Print. My favorite. Now I wonder. This is just gonna return a string. Because right now, I'm storing it as a variable. If I store it as a literal integer, as a string, I can do that and return number 10. Or I can return it as just keep the number and return number 10. Okay. Nice. How do you write? Alright. Using a variable to represent your favorite number, then for using that variable, create a message that reveals your favorite number. Print that message. Alright. Comments. Comments are an extremely useful feature in most programming languages. Everything you've written in your program so far is Python code. As your programs become larger or longer and more complicated, you should add notes within your programs that describe your overall approach to problems you're solving. A comment allows you to write notes in your spoken language within your program. How do you write comments? In Python, the hash mark indicates a comment. Anything following a hash mark in your code is ignored by the Python interpreter. For example, comment.py, hashtag say hello to everyone, print, hello Python people. Python ignores the first line and executes the second line, hello Python people. What kinds of comments should you write? The main reason to write comment is to explain what your code is supposed to do and how you're making it work. When you're in the middle of working on a project, you understand how all of the pieces fit together. But when you return to a project after some time, you'll likely have forgotten some of the details. You can always study your code for a while and figure out how segments were supposed to work, but writing good comments can save you time by summarizing your overall approach clearly. If you want to become a professional programmer or collaborate with other programmers, you should write meaningful comments. Today, most software is written collaboratively, whether by a group of employees at one company or a group of people working together on an open source project. Skilled programmers expect to see comments in code, so it's best to start adding descriptive comments to your programs now. Writing clear, concise comments in your code is one of the most beneficial habits you can form as a new programmer. When you're deciding whether to write a comment, ask yourself if you had to consider several approaches before coming up with a reasonable way to make something work. If so, write a comment about your solution. Interesting. When you're deciding whether to write a comment, ask yourself if you had to consider several approaches before coming up with a reasonable way to make something work. If so, write a comment about your solution. It's much easier to delete extra comments later than go back and write comments for a sparsely commented program. From now on, I'll use comments and examples throughout this book to help explain sections of the code. Interesting. Alright, one last try it yourself here before we'll call it for today. 2-11, page 30. Try it yourself. Choose two of the programs you've written and add at least one comment to each. If you don't have anything specific to write because your programs are too simple at this point, just add your name and the current date at the top of each program file. Then write one sentence describing what the program does. Okay, just wants me to add a comment. So we'll just go into the current one we're on, the top of the file. As simple as prints. Alright. Stripping names. Let's look at that one. Easy enough. Hashtag. Prints the name with the Alright, cool. That is it for any comments in section 211, page 30. The next title is The Zen of Python. But we're going to go ahead and call it there for chapter 2 so far today. And we'll be back again tomorrow for some more studying of Python Crash Course by Eric Matthes. It's a great book so far. Getting through it on chapter 2.